Mission accomplished for Aryna Sabalenka. She's the champion once again in Brisbane. A scintillating performance all week from her. And Marta Kostyuk just couldn't find a way to get past the world number one. She wouldn't allow it. And it's the perfect start to the season for this supremely talented player.
Yeah, another incredibly impressive week from Aryna Sabalenka. Really, from start to finish, hasn't dropped a set, and that final performance there, again, she just showed why she's the world number one, didn't she? She just had a little bit too much firepower for Marta Kostyuk, but lots of positives to take for the Ukrainian. Had a fantastic week. And really,
Aryna Sabalenka just won her second consecutive Brisbane International title in dominant fashion. Marta Kostyuk lost 6-4, 6-3 in 77 minutes. Then came the trophy ceremony, and Kostyuk refused to shake Sabalenka's hand for the second time in their careers. The crowd watched in uncomfortable silence as old tensions resurfaced in the most public way possible. This wasn't just about one match anymore. Is Kostyuk justified in continuing this protest, or is she crossing a line by bringing politics into every single encounter with Sabalenka? Aryna Sabalenka won the Brisbane International for the second year in a row. She beat Marta Kostyuk 6-4, 6-3 in a match that lasted just 77 minutes. The tennis was one-sided. Sabalenka's power overwhelmed Kostyuk from the start. Her serve was dominant, her ground strokes were crushing, and her movement was sharp for someone playing their first tournament of the season. This was the world number one, showing exactly why she holds that ranking.
Thank you very much, Lord Mayor. Now, unfortunately, in a final, there can only be one winner. So please put your hands together for our finalists today. Marta Kostyuk, well done, Marta, on making it through to the final.
Then came the trophy ceremony, and suddenly the tennis didn't matter anymore. Kostyuk stood at the microphone and delivered a speech entirely about Ukraine. She talked about people living without light and warm water in minus 20-degree temperatures. She thanked Ukrainian fans for their support and their flags. She ended with Slava Ukraini, which is a Ukrainian rallying cry. What she didn't do was acknowledge Sabalenka in any way. Not a congratulations, not a mention of her opponent's name, nothing.
I want to say a few words about Ukraine. I play every day with a pain in my heart, and there is thousands of people who are without light and warm water right now. It's minus 20 degrees outside, so it's very, very painful to live this reality every day. And you know, it's very hot here in Brisbane, so it's difficult to imagine this, you know, but my sister is sleeping under 3 blankets because of how cold it is at home, so I was incredibly moved and happy to see so many Ukrainian fans and flags this week too.
The crowd supported Kostyuk's speech because nobody wants to be the person not applauding support for a country dealing with war and humanitarian crisis. But the omission was obvious. Sabalenka stood there holding her trophy while her opponent used the platform to make a political statement that deliberately excluded her. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. This isn't the first time these two have had issues with the handshake. Kostyuk refused to shake Sabalenka's hand after their French Open match in 2023. That was the beginning of this particular dynamic. Since then, every meeting between them carries this extra layer of political and personal tension that has nothing to do with who hits the ball better.
I mean, it's their position. What can I do? And I don't mind that. I don't care about that. And when I go into the match, it's all about tennis and sport. And when I go out there, I think about my tennis and things that I have to do to get the win. It doesn't matter if it's Marta Kostyuk or Jessica Pegula there. I still go out there and I still try my best, and I'll fight for the trophy. I have nothing to prove, and I go there and I just compete as an athlete.
Sabalenka's response after the Brisbane final was measured and diplomatic. She said she doesn't care about the handshake refusal. She said when she goes on court, it's all about tennis and sport. She thinks about her game and what she needs to do to win. It doesn't matter if it's Kostyuk or Jessica Pegula on the other side. She competes as an athlete and has nothing to prove. That's the public statement anyway.
It was an interesting celebration from Sabalenka. She kissed her biceps while looking at her team, and I thought for sure that was a reference to Marta Kostyuk's comments when she blamed her winless streak against Aryna and Iga on them potentially having more testosterone. Aryna was asked about this in her post-match press conference, and she denied it being sort of a dig at her opponent.
The celebration celebration at the end, can you just tell me the kissing of the biceps, was there anything in particular behind that, or?
No, I think because during the game I made a lot of aggressive, heavy winners. I want to see the speed, so I was just making fun with my team.
So nothing in response to any discussions of... No.
You just made that up!
But there was a moment during the match celebration that suggested Sabalenka isn't quite as unbothered as she claims. After winning, she kissed her biceps in what appeared to be a reference to past comments Kostyuk made about Sabalenka's physicality. Kostyuk has said those comments were taken out of context, but the bicep kiss felt like a direct response. So maybe Sabalenka does care a little bit more than she's letting on.
Well, I don't know. It's tennis, it's sport, and that's why it's so beautiful, because you cannot predict anything. It's like every day you go out there and you prove your level, you prove your point, and I think this week I did it really well, but nobody knows what's going to happen in the future. But the only one thing I'm sure is that I'll be there, I'll be fighting, I'll do my best to go as far as possible and do a little bit better than I did last year. And that's where is my focus. My focus is on my game, on developing myself and making sure that I'm strong and healthy heading to the AO.
The history between these two goes beyond just handshakes. They've played 5 times total. Sabalenka has won all 5 matches. The head-to-head is 5-0. Not close. Not competitive across multiple meetings. Sabalenka owns this matchup in ways that have to be frustrating for Kostyuk. You can't beat someone if you can't even get one win against them over multiple years. The political element complicates everything. Kostyuk is Ukrainian. Sabalenka is Belarusian. Belarus is allied with Russia in the conflict. Sabalenka has been careful about her public statements regarding the war, generally avoiding direct political commentary while expressing general support for peace. She's been allowed to compete on tour as a neutral athlete without representing Belarus officially. That status allows her to play while other Russian and Belarusian athletes have faced restrictions. Kostyuk's position is that Sabalenka's silence is complicity. By not speaking out against her country's government or their alliance with Russia, Sabalenka is implicitly supporting actions that are causing immense suffering in Ukraine. That perspective leads Kostyuk to refuse basic sportsmanship gestures like handshakes because she views them as normalizing someone who won't take a moral stand. Sabalenka's counterposition, though she doesn't state it this explicitly, is that she's an athlete trying to compete professionally in an impossible political situation. Speaking out against Belarus or Russia could endanger her family still living there. It could result in her being banned from her home country. It could create safety concerns that go beyond just tennis, so she maintains public neutrality while competing as an individual athlete rather than national representative. Both positions have validity depending on your perspective. Kostyuk is standing up for her country and using the platform she has to draw attention to ongoing humanitarian crisis. That's admirable. Sabalenka is trying to separate sport from politics in a situation where that separation is genuinely difficult and potentially dangerous. That's understandable too. But the handshake refusal creates problems beyond just the personal dynamic between two players. It puts tournament organizers in awkward positions during ceremonies. It creates uncomfortable moments for fans who came to watch tennis. It generates media coverage that focuses on political tensions instead of athletic performance. And it sets precedents for how other players might handle similar situations in the future. The WTA hasn't taken a strong stance on this. They've allowed both players to handle the situation as they see fit. There's no rule requiring handshakes after matches, though it's been customary for decades as a gesture of mutual respect. Some players have refused handshakes for purely personal reasons, having nothing to do with politics. The tour has generally stayed out of it unless things escalate to more serious conduct violations. Kostyuk's speech in Brisbane was calculated to maximize her platform, while maintaining plausible deniability about disrespecting Sabalenka. She didn't insult her opponent, she didn't make the ceremony about their personal issues, she talked about Ukraine, which is objectively dealing with tragedy and crisis. Nobody can criticize that content without looking heartless, but the deliberate omission of any acknowledgement of Sabalenka was the real message. Sabalenka handled it well publicly. She congratulated Kostyuk on a good week. She expressed hope they'd meet in another final. She made jokes about her boyfriend in the crowd to lighten the mood. She didn't take the bait or create a scene. From a PR perspective, she played it perfectly. She looked like the bigger person, while Kostyuk looked like someone letting politics interfere with basic professionalism. But the bicep kiss complicates that narrative. That wasn't neutral or diplomatic. That was Sabalenka sending a message about past comments and asserting dominance. It suggested she's more aware of and bothered by Kostyuk's behavior than her public statements admit. The tension is mutual, even if only one player refuses handshakes. The crowd's reaction during Kostyuk's speech is interesting to analyze. They applauded her words about Ukraine enthusiastically. Supporting people suffering in war zones is easy to get behind, but you could feel the discomfort when she finished without mentioning Sabalenka. People didn't know how to react to that part. Some probably agreed with Kostyuk's stance. Others probably thought it was inappropriate for a trophy ceremony. The mixed response reflected how complicated this situation actually is. From a pure tennis perspective, this match wasn't close. Sabalenka is simply on another level right now. She's the world #1 for good reason. Her game is built around power and aggression that overwhelms opponents before they can establish any rhythm. Kostyuk competed hard but never really threatened to win. The scoreline 6-4, 6-3 actually makes it look closer than it felt watching the match unfold. Sabalenka's start at 2026 has been dominant. She's 6-0 now across all matches. She won Brisbane without dropping a set. She's heading into the Australian Open as the favorite, and nothing from this week suggested that status is undeserved. Her level is absurdly high for early January when most players are still finding form. Kostyuk had a solid week despite the final loss. She beat Jessica Pegula and other quality opponents to reach the final. Her ranking will improve. She showed she can compete at this level even if she's not quite at the championship tier yet. But the handshake situation and speech are what people will remember from her Brisbane run, not the quality tennis she played getting there. The broader question is whether these personal protests during professional sporting events accomplish anything meaningful. Kostyuk gets media attention for her stance. People write articles about Ukraine and the ongoing crisis. Some percentage of readers who weren't paying attention before might become aware or engaged. That's positive impact, arguably, but it also creates backlash. Some fans view it as inappropriately injecting politics into sport. Some people sympathetic to Ukraine still think refusing handshakes crosses a line into poor sportsmanship, and it arguably puts Sabalenka in an impossible position, where she's damned if she speaks and damned if she stays silent. None of that helps Ukraine directly, and it might actually harden positions rather than changing minds. The geopolitical realities aren't changing because of tennis handshakes. Belarus isn't going to alter its alliance with Russia because Marta Kostyuk won't shake Aryna Sabalenka's hand. The war continues regardless of what happens at WTA trophy ceremonies, so the question becomes whether these gestures are meaningful protest or performative activism that creates drama without substance. Kostyuk would argue that staying silent normalizes the situation and allows people to forget what's happening. By repeatedly bringing it up, she keeps attention focused on ongoing tragedy. She uses the platform she has to do what she can. That's her responsibility as someone with visibility and Ukrainian identity. Critics would argue that Sabalenka isn't responsible for her government's actions. She's an athlete who happened to be born in a country with terrible leadership. Punishing her personally through social snubs doesn't accomplish anything except creating hostile work environments and uncomfortable situations for everyone involved. Both arguments have merit. Both positions are defensible. And that's why the situation is so messy and why it keeps generating controversy every time these two players meet. There's no clean resolution that satisfies everyone's moral positions while also maintaining professional standards. The WTA's reluctance to intervene is understandable but also problematic. They don't want to police players' personal beliefs or force interactions that feel morally compromising to participants, but by staying completely hands-off, they're allowing situations that make their sport look unprofessional and petty to casual observers who don't understand all the context. Sabalenka's continued success despite this ongoing tension shows remarkable mental strength. It would be easy to let the hostility and judgment affect her performance. Instead, she keeps winning. She keeps dominating. She keeps proving that whatever people think about her political positions or silence, her tennis speaks for itself. That's not nothing. Kostyuk's willingness to sacrifice easy popularity and risk criticism for her principles is also noteworthy. It would be much simpler to just shake hands, say nothing, and avoid controversy. She's choosing the harder path because she believes it matters. You can disagree with her approach while respecting the conviction behind it. The trophy ceremony awkwardness is going to keep happening until something changes. Either Kostyuk starts shaking hands again, which seems unlikely, or they stop meeting in finals, which would require one of them to decline in results, or the WTA steps in with some kind of policy about mandatory acknowledgement during ceremonies. None of those options seem imminent, so we're probably going to see this play out again. Maybe at the Australian Open if they meet there, maybe at other tournaments throughout the year. Each time will generate the same debates, the same uncomfortable moments, the same analysis of who's right and who's wrong, in a situation where both positions have validity depending on your moral framework. The Brisbane final will be remembered less for the quality of Sabalenka's tennis and more for the political theater that surrounded it. That's unfortunate because Sabalenka played incredibly well and deserves recognition for that performance, but it's also inevitable given the circumstances and the choices both players are making about how to handle this situation. Marta Kostyuk refused to shake Aryna Sabalenka's hand after losing the Brisbane Brisbane final, then gave a speech entirely about Ukraine without mentioning her opponent once. The political protest continues while Sabalenka keeps winning and saying she doesn't care. If you want to follow how this rivalry evolves, hit that like button and subscribe because it's only getting messier from here.